Jaxson Dart, the under-the-radar darling, who is starting to climb his way up draft boards, could potentially be a first-round pick. I see some raw talent, I see some athleticism, but I have some serious questions here, Kenny. Are you a Jaxson Dart believer?
To me, he's like sweet potato fries. Okay? Because nothing makes me sadder than when I go into a restaurant and they have, well, the pub, and it says, oh, why not upgrade to sweet potato fries and pay £1 extra to get them? And I think, I'm paying more money for something that's worse than actual fries. I don't get it. I don't get why anyone would ever do that. I don't get Jaxson Dart. I don't see the hype. I don't see what people are talking about. Like the fact that people are saying he's, a better prospect than Shador, I can't see that. I mean, I can see that maybe slightly if I squint and tilt my head to one way. If you're saying he's got more upside, yeah, but I think the path for him to tread there is so narrow and tricky. I just, yeah, I don't see it. For me, maybe I'm doing a bit of uniform scouting here, but to me, I just see the same problems that we had with Matt Corral, and we saw how that went. He's fairly mobile, but I just think his decision making is so bad. And we talked about Cam Ward being a streaky player. I think this guy's like the ultimate streaky player in that I can't remember him putting 4 or 5 good plays together. He just did. I think on the film I watched, I think on at least 2, maybe even 3 separate occasions, I saw him getting forced out of the pocket, but not under great pressure, and run the ball out of bounds 2 or 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, when he could have just dumped the ball off over the defender's head, and he didn't lose anything. And he's taken a 3-yard loss when he wasn't under great pressure. He could have got the ball out. He could have attempted a sideline, a relatively safe throw that would have, his receiver would have had to make a miraculous catch, but it wasn't getting picked, kind of thing. And he's just saying, just take a 3-yard loss here. Don't worry about it, guys. I thought he made really bad choices. His accuracy is inconsistent. His footwork wasn't awful, but at times I found his motion quite weird. Like at times he's a bit of a shoulder thrower, that he's, the ball's up here and it's just this, and like darts. Yeah. And then at other times I found like he seemed to, when he stepped into his throw, he seemed to have a really long, deliberate, elongated motion, which pass rushers will be lining that up. I could see some fumble problems possibly. He's fairly instinctive as a runner. I think he has good awareness, so he's able to look after himself. I think of all the players that I looked at in this draft, the gap between his good plays and his bad plays were the biggest. I thought there was some really awful plays in there, and there were some good plays. I don't know how strong his arm is, and I think your point about anticipatory throws are a concern. The one thing that I did think, when they could scheme him against zone and he kind of had that sort of 15-yard crossing routes where the deep zones have been run off and the shallow zones are still up, and he could drop the ball in there. But generally it was to guys who were really, really uncovered, and that's not how you make a living in the NFL. So I have a lot of questions here. I would, put it this way: if I see him going first round in any of the leagues I'm in, I'm really happy, because that means that a guy that I like is getting pushed down one spot. So everybody out there, take him 102, 103. If you're in a league with me, go for it, guys. I encourage it.
I think that, I've pigeonholed him as he's my Rorschach test this year. I think that whatever you want to see, you can see. I think he's also my highlight watcher beware, because I think his highlights are some of the best of any player you watch in this entire class. But the problem is that when you consistently watch him, there are real issues here. I think that there is undoubted talent here, and I think that's why you've started to see him climb up draft boards since coaches have got involved, because we know that coaches time and time again, they're kind of what I call dream scouters, in that they look at the potential dream scenario of what a player could be, because they're such good coaches, they can bring it out of him. And I think that's the reason why we started to see him climb up draft boards recently. Yes, there's arm talent, yes, there's athleticism, but for me, the cerebral moments of playing quarterback, he has got real issues. Like, we know that this is going to be one of the best schemed offenses in the league. We know that this is going to be one of the simplest offenses in the league in terms of thoughtful reads, in terms of how he's processing. And even then, he still has some real issues.
Yeah.
He has some real, like, just mind blank moments. It's infuriating.
I mean, my thing is, sorry.
No, go on.
My thing is we're operating, and I know it won't always be this way, but we're operating in, it's Vic Fangio's world, defense wide at the moment, isn't it? You know, we are operating in the cover two, everything in front of you. You know, we don't get beat deep, make the quarterbacks get their way down the field. I can't remember seeing him string 3 or 4 decent plays together consistently without some bonehead play here or there. And, you know, there are a number of games where I sort of dropped interceptions, or, like I said, just running out of bounds 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage when not under pressure. Those kind of things that you get really punished for in the NFL. You know, it's hard to go out there and get first downs. It's hard to score touchdowns. You know, these guys are the best of the best at what they do. And I just have real trouble, you know, taking a QB high. If I was an NFL team, I'd have real trouble taking a guy in the first round when I'm like, is he capable of putting a drive together? You know, I'm not talking about multiple drives, one drive of 10 plus plays where he doesn't have. And you could say he's got enough raw talent that he can afford to have, you know, a few bonehead plays here and there, because he'll, you know, gun one in and pick up the 15 yards after he's lost 5 on doing something insane. But I mean, who's lived like that for very long in the NFL? Brett Favre, is that it? Is he the only guy that's ever played the position like that?
It's, for me, it's Will Levis, but even more inconsistent. Like, okay, the boneheaded plays aren't quite as incredibly boneheaded as like Will Levis. I don't think anybody else will ever hit that level. But it's like Will Levis does one a game. I feel like Jaxson Dart does one a drive. Like, it's really consistent. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to be one of these players that I can see people fall in love with. I can see people seeing what they want to see out of him and almost forcing it. But for me, he's a guy that if he turns into, there is, you know, again, we're talking 100th percentile outcome. There is a world where I think he's got the arm talent, the athleticism, that if he put it all together, he could be a fantasy relevant player.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm quite happy that being on someone else's roster, because I think the likely range of outcomes are that he's not going to be able to be a consistent enough producer to be in fantasy lineups.
Yeah, I mean, every one of these players that we talk about, you know, there's a chance they fall in there. At a certain point, they hit a point with value, don't they? Like, you know, I always remember I hated Kadarius Toney coming out, but he got drafted in the first round, and one of the drafts we were in, he fell, and I think at the bottom of the second, I got him because I was like, all right, I don't really want this guy, but at this point, his value is too high to keep passing up. So you can never say never, but I just, you know, like we've talked about the other prospects, like someone like Milroe, I wouldn't sit here and say, oh yeah, take a big bet on him being a successful NFL QB, because I don't believe that. But I can picture an offense that he could run that could be successful. And a lot of things have to line up for him. Like, if you were to drop him into a Philadelphia Eagles-esque offense, I could see that working for him, you know, because I would think that he'd have a supportive running game. He could be part of that running game, and he could make the deep throws that, you know, would fit in with his game. I really struggle to picture what a successful Jaxson Dart NFL offense looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, like he's not he doesn't seem cerebral enough, a good enough decision maker to fit in a Shanahan McVay type offense. I don't think he's, a good enough runner to be, in a run based, a QB run based offense. I'm struggling like this, and like I say, I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he goes and has a long, successful career, because the more good QBs, the better. And if he does, I'll happily come in here and say I got it completely wrong. But I don't see how he does it. I don't see the team out there or the scheme out there that he'd be a great fit with, personally.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. But if you're watching this and you're a Dart fan, let us know in the comments below. Let us know what we are missing that you truly see, because there is a chance it could all turn out. But while you're there, hit that subscribe button. We'll be back with more positional previews very soon.